Okay, ready whenever you are.
Ready, okay, it is 12:17 on Tuesday, April 27th, and I'll call our special meeting to order. We will begin with our pledge of allegiance. Stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And I would ask for secretary to take roll.
Burnell,
Here.
Lisa Johnston,
Here.
Dave Nichols,
Here.
Meredith Sauer,
Here.
Casey Selner. Here. Carrie Trask,
Here.
and Kathy Willis.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then I would ask for a motion and a second on the minutes from our previous meeting. I did, Alan and Stacy, did you get that? Thank you. Otherwise it's on, okay. Just so you had a chance to look at it. Okay. So I would entertain a motion and a second to approve those minutes.
Make a motion. I'll second.
Oh. Any additions or corrections to the minutes? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then I guess we have a school showcase, is that right?
Yeah, can we skip ahead to the committee reports and then go back to the showcase? Because I think I told them 12:30 and we're a little ahead of schedule. So can we do
We
the
can do that.
curriculum committee and then go back to
We can do that. Okay, so then we'll move up to the committee reports, the curriculum committee. Meredith, do you have a report for us?
Yep. So we met on April 15th and had two things on our agenda. The first thing was a technology update. They call it Teachnology because it's teaching and technology combined. And just walked through with Jessica, who's gone now, just some of the work that they've been doing throughout this year to make things happen behind the scenes. And so right now, I thought some of these statistics were great for us to kind of wrap our heads around. They have issued 5,000 Chromebooks this year. And so their little team, it has been working to issue those. 3,000 laptops. They have 5,000 students that they're working with those 5,000 Chromebooks, which means families and things like that. And I thought that was remarkable. I was really pleased with that, that they've done such a wonderful job. And they send out surveys every year. Last year, they scored a 3.28 out of a 4-point scale. And for this academic year, that went up to a 3.38. So it just goes to show that their hard work is really paying off. And they have a really small team. I want to say she said there were like 4 or 5 of them. And they've made their garages into IT kingdoms where they're repairing things and just really working hard, delivering things to doorsteps and all sorts of work. So that was neat to hear some of those statistics and the work that they have put in over this year. Then we also had some ELA updates and walked through some of the curriculum updates that have been made and getting some feedback from some of the teachers and the trainings that they have had and just the excitement behind teaching ELA and working with those classroom teachers with the experts and matching them up in order to be able to deliver that instruction well. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. You do have your meeting minutes in the board packet to refer to. But that was all we walked through that day.
Thank you. Any questions for Kathy on that? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion in a second to approve the minutes of the curriculum committee.
I'll move on the curriculum committee, but it's not.
Anybody can. I'll second. Any further discussion on the minutes? If not, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. They're approved. Then we'll move on to the personnel report. I believe that is on board book. We have that listed in there. Look at that. I don't know, Joyce?
Yep, Joyce is here.
You can hear?
We'll just listen to her. She'll come on this one.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. So within your packet on board book is the personnel report. Hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at that. Does anyone have any questions on the personnel report?
I just have a question, Joyce, regarding the new hires. The last one is the German teacher. Is that a replacement position? Doesn't indicate whether that's new or a replacement.
Yeah, so Christopher Glant is our German teacher, and due to sections and student course selection for next year, did not have enough sections for full time. So in talking to Chris, talked to him, explained that to him, he was more than willing to accept a 0.8 contract versus going through, we would have had to go through the non-renewal process to issue him a contract for anything less than full-time. Otherwise, it automatically.
Current position, just reducing it from full-time to 8 temps, right?
Right. So it needs board approval. Yep.
Thank you.
So how many openings do we have now? That need to be filled. Because the last time we got a report from you, it seemed like you put it.
Carrie, I didn't hear your question. I'm sorry.
What Carrie asked was, how many openings there still are for teacher positions that haven't been filled?
Oh, gosh, I'd have to, Carrie, I can get back to you. I'd have to go on WeCan and look to see what's out there that we're still trying to fill. Again, and this is typically our hiring season, spring and certainly into the summer. We are filling positions, posting and interviewing and filling positions, but I would have to, if you want an exact number, I'll go on WeCan and take a look and I can send you an email, Carrie.
Going back to Chris Glant, teacher, I have him as a teacher, he's a great teacher, and that was at Wilson back in the day. But as far as, was there any change into salary that took place? And if so, is there going to be any, I guess if he's a full-time teacher going to a smaller amount, is there any use that's planned for him beyond that?
So again, right now, Christopher will, again, based on student selection of courses, again, German in this case, the sections align with, the FTE level. And again, in a conversation with Chris, very open and willing to not be full-time. He will teach 4 classes every day of German for the entire year. Typically, if somebody's full-time at the high school, they would teach 5 classes every day all year.
So Joyce, I have 2 questions with that. The first is, has there been an adjustment made to his salary with the 0.8? And secondly, I believe what Juan was trying to ask was, is there another position that he would be qualified to do that would help him maintain full-time? And in my own thoughts, it would be, we have a lack of substitute teachers. Why not allow him to fill in that extra hour as a, constant?
Yeah.
So the board, we're getting a little bit off of our task, kind of speaking about individuals and specifically their rate of pay. What I would tell you is that 0.8 indicates 1.0 is full-time, 0.8, he is going to get paid 20% less than the year before, because he has 20% less. That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why he's in this process, is because he is taking a less than full-time.
Right.
We have the right to offer him a full-time by adding on other pieces. Understand that that conversation went on, and we, as a mutual agreement, said this is what we're going to offer him,
Okay.
and he agreed. The process is significantly different if he chooses not. So I just want to say, as a board, you just have to be cautious about pulling individuals out and asking very specific questions about the individuals in a format that we generally approve all at once. If there are pieces that are pulled out individually, like we have an addendum or usually administrators, then that gives the board always the right to talk about the individual. But we just have to be, just in general, cautious about asking individual questions about people on there. And if there's something that you see in advance, we could talk about it ahead of time. That's general for the process. Does that answer the question?
We could do that in full session.
Well,
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It depends on who.
right, the personnel report.
Closed sessions are only for information that can't be discussed in open session. It's very limited to what's in
Yeah,
closed
yeah.
session.
I mean,
Has to be confidential and personal.
personnel, yeah.
Yeah, the personnel
Or
report,
the salary of an individual receives is not confidential.
Yeah.
But the discussions that took place between Joyce and the teacher can be considered confidential. I think that's what you're getting at.
yes. But the fact remains that if employee is less than full-time, we make the adjustment in salary and benefits. And offer them whatever he is in this case, 20%.
Okay, if there's no other questions for Joyce, I would entertain a motion in a second to approve the personnel report as it's been presented.
I'll move to accept the report.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, that is approved. Did you want to go to the,
Yeah, I see,
because it looks like about 12:30.
yeah, I see Heidi's in the queue here, so we will turn it over to Heidi and her review squad. So welcome, Heidi.
Hello, everyone. Just doing a sound check. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm going to share my screen. And can you see the Riverview Learning Community slideshow?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Hello, everyone. I am Heidi Schroeder's principal at Riverview, and I'm very happy to be here today to share about the things that we are doing at Riverview, some of the things that we are proud of that we are doing here. It isn't that working. There we go. Okay, so in the summer, and sometimes during the school year too, but in the summer mostly, we are planning for the next school year. And for the past many years, one of the things our staff has really tried to do is think about cross-cutting strategies that we can use with staff that will impact student learning across many areas. And as you already know, from hearing from Stacy O'Pally, principal at Madison, and Andrea Fries, principal at Monroe, the three of our schools were in a collaboration this school year, working on our action plan. And we had attended a summer workshop, and really we're excited about doing feedback work with our teachers. And so, yeah, I'm going to try really hard today to not go into a lot of detail about the things you've already heard about twice, and really instead spend a little bit more time with my staff talking to you about how we specifically have used feedback in addition to our collaboration, but in our own unique ways here at Riverview. Mrs. O'Pally shared a similar slide to this with you last time, but I just wanted to remind you, when we chose feedback, it was because it was a high impact strategy. Dr. Hattie's work that Mrs. O'Pally already talked about with you. This slide just kind of reminding you that our goal was to work with teachers around feedback, but also work with students with feedback. I'm not going to read our SMART goal to you. Again, our SMART goal is focused on teachers using effective feedback strategies that will move student learning forward. And when we think about our 100-day benchmark, where would we be at the 100-day mark? Some things that we would be excited about there would be teachers using strategies with students and knowing what to do with students when they're stuck in their learning, and also emphasizing that growth mindset. And at Riverview, in addition to really hoping that our students have a growth mindset and are learning to use a growth mindset, we really also apply that to our teaching staff and our professional staff to really have that growth mindset and be willing to take risks and fail and learn through failure. When I think about family engagement, this has been an unusual year for family engagement. We have tried to educate our parents about our SMART goal and our action plan and the work that we're doing through PTO meetings. Facebook has been a great way for me to share out podcast information about what you're going to hear about from our staff. We've shared some podcast learning opportunities for parents, and also just some links and things with our growth mindset work that we've done with students. And now I have 4 staff members that are going to share with you about some feedback specific things that we're doing with students and staff. So without further ado, I will let them each introduce themselves to you.
Hello, my name is Danielle Hetman, and I am the school counselor at Riverview. So teacher to student and student to teacher feedback is at the center of our work to support students who are struggling socially and emotionally. So over the last 3 years, the Riverview staff have embraced the philosophy that kids do well if they can, and that challenging students are challenging because they have lagging skills and unsolved problems. We see challenging behaviors when the expectations exceed the student's ability to respond adaptively. We use the assessment of lagging skills and unsolved problems to assess students, and from there, Riverview staff engage in problem-solving conversations with the students based on their individualized needs. To give a little background on the collaborative and proactive solutions model, Dr. Green outlines 3 options for handling challenging student behavior. Plan A is when adults impose solutions for the student. Plan B is when the adult and student solve the problem collaboratively and proactively. And Plan C is when you're setting aside an unsolved problem or an expectation that a student is struggling with. Not because you're giving in, but because you can't solve all the problems at once. The Plan B approach is the preferred option because it has the greatest impact on student learning. Plan B is broken into 3 parts: the empathy step, the adult concern step, and the invitation to problem-solving step. The empathy step is an opportunity for the teacher or adult to present an unsolved problem to a student and allow the student to express their concerns. An example might be, I noticed you're having difficulty getting started on your fractions assignment. What's up? Teachers use these feedback prompts to find out what is causing the student to be stuck. Once the teacher reaches that aha moment through the information received from the student, the teacher explains their concern and invites the student to join them in finding solutions that meet both the student's needs and the teacher's concerns. I can give an example of using this model with a 5th grade student that I have been meeting with for attendance concerns. Using the unsolved problem, I noticed you're having trouble getting to school on time. What's up? I was able to learn that the main concern the student was having was that she forgot a mask on the way to the bus, and when she ran back to get it, the bus had already left. I would never have known that if I hadn't engaged this problem-solving process with her. So by working together, we came with the solution to pack some extra masks, and that has significantly improved her attendance.
Hi, my name is Ellen Feller, and I am a 1st grade teacher at Riverview.
My unsolved problem that I'm going to talk about today is about a student in my room who had a difficult time keeping his body still on the carpet during a read aloud that I would have every day. So I presented my problem, the unsolved problem, to him, and then I asked him what he thought about it. And he shared some information with me about why he felt that was happening. He said when he sits down on the carpet, he can't find a comfortable spot. So he's moving around a lot to find a spot that feels more comfortable for him. He also said that he wants to move around more. The other thing that was really cool when we were talking about why he felt he was doing that, he also did mention that he was thinking about how he's hoping that it's his moving around is not bothering others on the carpet. And I thought that was really neat because we've talked about how our actions affect other people that are in the classroom. And that was one of the things that he shared in that step where he got to talk about what he wanted to say. And I thought that was really neat for him to do. After he got done sharing what he wanted to share with me, my adult concern was that you are not able to learn about the book and that other students around you would not be able to learn because of your constant moving. And then I invited him to work on solving a problem together. And we talked about things that he thought that would be beneficial for him to be able to keep his body still. We have these sit circles in the classroom that are rubbery that you can bring to the carpet. So he thought of that because he's used them before at his chair. I gave the suggestion about using a blanket because I have blankets in my room, and I thought maybe if he brought that to the carpet, that would be more comfortable for him. And then we also have these cube chairs in our room. They're plastic and they're like very boxy and you can't move around a lot when you sit on them. He decided that he wanted to use that sit circle. So from then on, after we got done talking about it, he used that sit circle. A couple of days later, I got back with him and I asked him how he thought it was going. I thought he was doing a pretty good job, but it was interesting because he said, nope, I don't think it's going as well as I want it to. So we revisited the two other choices about the blanket and the cube chair, and he decided to use the cube chair instead to help him keep his body still. As we were making that decision, I asked him another question. I said, do you notice that you have any other times when you're on the carpet that you notice that your body is not still? And right away, he's like, I know during number corner and reading, my body's not still. And then I said, okay. And I said, I also noticed that during writing time, you have a hard time keeping your body still on the carpet when I do a lesson. And he also said, math too, Mrs. Feller. So he was recognizing that anytime he came to the carpet, he had a difficult time keeping his body still and focusing on the lesson. So we agreed for him then to take that chair every single time he comes to the carpet for a lesson or a read aloud. And he's really good about bringing it. He sits down and there is a difference. He is not moving around on the carpet. He's more focused. He's not bothering other students that are around him. And I have had other people, adults that have come into the classroom, also notice that it's made a big difference for Tegan. Oh, for the student, sorry.
Hi, my name's Alyssa Buboltz, and I'm a second grade teacher here at Riverview. And what I wanted to talk to you guys about is how I've used problem solving during community circle and really having the kids talk together and come up with feedback on how our problem solving is going. So what I did is I noticed that a lot of my students and a majority of the class were having a hard time during writing time, and they were very chatty. So what I did is I came up with the problem of I noticed that we're having difficulty working quietly during writing time. What's up? And what they did is I had them get into small groups and they brainstormed on their whiteboards about what could happen or what was happening that was making it hard for them to work quietly. And then after they had some time as small groups, what they did is we came together and we made a list as a whole class, and we talked about how we had to make sure that we were meeting everyone's concerns. So they know the Plan B process just because I've been doing it with individual students and we've talked about it, but this was the first time that we did as a class. So making sure that every single person's concern was met was tricky, but we got through it and we came up with a list of a lot of different concerns. And what was really cool about this was once we got to the solving the problem part, is that they were able to match a solution with every problem. And we didn't tell them to do this. So as second graders, it was a really cool thing to see, because they were like, for example, we were talking about how one of their concerns is people are talking and they get distracted. So when the kids were sharing what to do, they were like, well, when people are talking and we get distracted, we can ignore and get time to, or we should get some extra time to talk during the day. And then when they were like, there's more people. So they were like, Mrs. Buboltz, we've had half classes all year. And since we've had half classes all year, there haven't been as many people in the room. So now there's more people. So then they decided maybe some of them will move to a new spot. And then they also said, like, we're excited for activities. Sometimes there's really cool things going on. So then they came up with, let's take some deep breaths and use positive self-talk. And then their pencil breaks, they were like, well, how about we just get a new one? And then they said they get really antsy. So then we decided use a wobble chair, or you can get up and stretch. And then the last thing I just want to say is I actually met back with them this week and we gave some feedback. So we talked about, okay, how is this plan going? What are you guys noticing? And they talked at their tables and they were like, I think we're doing better, Mrs. Buboltz, but we're not doing as great as maybe we could be. So then what we did is we talked about how when you come up with solutions, they change, and not the first solution always works. And they were able to tell, like, it wasn't me saying, I don't think it's going so well. It was more of them saying, yeah, I mean, we're doing okay, but we could do better. So then we talked about how it's really hard for them to be writing for that long of a time. So we decided as a class, every 15 minutes, we're going to take a stretch break. So it was just really cool to see how that feedback, kids giving each other feedback and me giving them feedback and having this conversation time was able to impact my whole class, not just one student at a time during our community circle.
Hello, I am Lauren Herman, and I am a fourth grade teacher here at Riverview. Most of our staff has been working on the Plan B process for about 3 years, and we recognize that in order to grow in our use of the Plan B conversations, we needed to be able to listen and reflect on our conversations, giving and getting feedback. So once a week during our planning time, we get together with a team of people, which is made up of the classroom teachers, the principal, and the school counselor, to listen to voice recordings of our Plan B conversations with our students. And when we're done listening to the recording, we self-reflect, and then the rest of the team gives feedback on what is going well and how we can grow in the use of giving students feedback to help them solve their problems. And throughout this time that we're listening to the recordings, we're also using a reflection or a note-taking tool to ensure that we are giving effective feedback to each other. And we know that the better we get at giving feedback to our students, the better they will be at solving problems someday. And then that ultimately will lead to better student learning. I have seen success this year with one of my students who was resistant to problem solving with me. He would share his concerns and he understood my concerns, but he wasn't really interested in coming up with solutions to help him or trying any of the solution ideas that I had given. And then just 2 weeks later, he was overheard talking to another teacher about how much he enjoys the problem-solving process with me. He went from expressing how much he disliked school to now saying he's enjoying it because of being able to problem solve with me.
Hello, my name is Kelsey O'Connor, and I also teach fourth grade here at Riverview. Having Plan B time built into our daily schedule has allowed me to grow in this process as I am able to have conversations that focus on students and talk through what it is that's making it difficult for them to meet expectations. Having Plan B conversations daily has also helped me feel more confident in having these conversations and giving students feedback. It has allowed me the opportunity to problem solve with many of my students this year, whereas in the past, I only had a chance to make progress with a few. These conversations are often recorded so that I can get feedback from peers on using the process, which felt intimidating at first. Now that this practice has become routine, I have been able to let go of trying to have a perfect conversation and recognize that the growth comes with making mistakes and being able to get feedback from our team of listeners later on. I have also come to realize that a conversation with a student may take more than one Plan B session to get through the empathy step, address student and adult concerns, and the problem-solving part. I've learned that the more often that I have these conversations with students, the more comfortable and willing they are to share their perspective with me. It's interesting to hear what students' concerns are, and it's important to go into the conversations with an open mind. As educators, it is common for us to believe that we know what it is that's getting in the way for our students, but this process has taught me that we are often very wrong. Some of my students' concerns have included the work being too difficult, not feeling comfortable asking for help in front of their peers, and needing to move their body instead of sitting still. They too are growing in this process and learning how to resolve problems collaboratively. I look forward to how this will impact our students and us as teachers in the future as we continue to develop our CPS practice. Thank you.
Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed a little glimpse into the work that we're doing at Riverview. We're definitely excited about seeing the changes in our staff and our students over time with this work. It is a long, hard process, but again, very exciting to be feeling like we're focusing in on what students need, knowing that if we meet their needs, they're going to be better learners. And that is what we have for you today. And I have, I'm probably out of time, but if there are any questions, I will stop sharing my screen now.
Any questions?
Yeah, Heidi, I do have a question for you. How are those Plan B conversations recorded? Are the students aware they're being recorded, and are they all recorded?
No, they're not all recorded, and students are aware that they're being recorded for the most part. I think the little kids aren't really paying attention to that. The only purpose for the recording is for the teachers to get feedback. So they're not shared out. They're not shared out in any other way.
Have the parents been, have given permission for their child to be recorded?
We put out general statements about it, but because of the way that we're using the recording just for our staff that work with the students, other than just some general information, we haven't done any signatures or anything like that.
What kind of device are you using to make the recordings?
Most people are using a iPad, a school iPad.
Okay.
Any other questions for Heidi?
No, just a quick comment. It sounds really effective, and I think that obviously it helps build relationship.
It does indeed. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Heidi.
Colin?
Thank you.
I have a question. With these, those iPads and those recordings, do they eventually, are they kept on file, or are they deleted after a certain amount of time, or?
Yep, they're not kept on file. The only reason they're used is for teacher growth. So they're just deleted right away. This is actually a very Ross Green, the CPS model that we're using from Ross Green. They have a coaching training, and that is their #1 recommendation, that staff record these conversations, because when you're in the conversation, you're very much attending to the child and focusing in on maybe what's your next move in the conversation. And so the coaching strategy that's used in their coaching model is to record and then get feedback on your practice.
Anything else? Okay, thank you, Heidi.
Thank you.
All right. I guess the next thing, then we'll go back to the report of the superintendent. I'll turn that over to Superintendent Holtzman for our district activity update.
Yeah, just a couple of things to make board members aware of. We are high in the moment of testing season, so our elementary, middle schools, and high schools are all now engaged in either preparation or actual completion of our forward testing. Again, our high schools juniors did that earlier when they did the ACT, but our middle school and elementary students testing. Pam and her team do a great job working with the school counselors. There's a lot of details behind making sure that all the students are counted in the correct manner, that we're training our staff in order to give the protocols and appropriate measures. But that process is happening. Typically, we get the response or reports from those testing sometime in the fall. So the state, depending on how quickly they're able to review those, we typically get those in the fall. And then once those are unembargoed, we'll share those with our staff and our families. Parents will get a digital copy of what or how their students achieved at different assessment. In addition to that, just wanted to let you know that we are collecting bids for some technology enhancement in this room. So hopefully, as we continue to provide live stream and board members here or either virtual, that will have a little bit better sound, maybe a little bit better screen for our public to view. Right now, the use of that screen would cause about a 5-second delay, and so it's a little glitchy. We tried to figure it out, and we're just not set up to do that at this time, so we're getting some bids to see if we can improve that. Just wanted to let you know that we continue to monitor our student and staff health, and we have not seen increases in illness from our students or staff. Continue to have monitoring. Doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. An example would be that our high school football team had a game that has been canceled on this Friday night due to an area team that has a COVID positive, which means their team is basically wiped out. So it's happening, but we've been continuing to monitor that and follow our protocols. So I feel like we're in pretty good shape there so far. And then I guess finally, just to let you know that I think we're continuing to see lots of different activities. Our 6th grade students are going out to the school forest for day trips. One of the things that we know about the school forest when we do evaluations from our students when they're juniors and seniors in high school is there is a high affirmation of the time that they spend in the school forest. So obviously an outdoor activity provides us an opportunity to get out there. We have to do it a little differently, and we're not staying overnight, but we're getting out there and giving kids some great experiences, and hopefully the weather will continue to be nice for our kids to go out to the school forest. And then finally, we are now a little bit in double season actually for our co-curriculars. We have our winter, our fall sports alternative kind of ending, and had some real nice successes with our girls volleyball. And that was, again, it's an amazing event. Our kids are fun, they're having a good time, they're participating, we got a nice group there. We had a number of girls play in the tennis meet at the state level, and baseball, softball, track started. We got a young man who was first in a conference meet of 9 schools in cross country. So, our coaches, our coaches and kids are doing lots of things, but so now we're still doing a little bit of football, a little bit of soccer, and a little bit of cross country, but yet we've got swimming and tennis and softball and baseball and all those going on at once. So our maintenance folks are now in full steam because the grass is cutting, our fields need to be maintained, and our schools still need to be clean. So we're appreciative of all the folks that are working through that. So just want to give you a heads up that Those things are going on. We still have seen some positive things from our schools. And again, the other thing that I would just articulate is that we are seeing student engagement at a very positive level. What I mean by student engagement is students attending school, students being engaged in school. I'm getting continual reports that we're seeing kids enjoying their opportunities. So as we plan for the future, we do know that things are going in a positive direction. That's my report.
Any other questions for the superintendent?
Mark, will the equipment that you have been for this room, will that be able to be, the federal funds, would they be able to be used on that because they're COVID related?
That's our goal. It might be a bit of a stretch, but we're gonna try. And yes, we would say that based on the need to have a limited public view in the audience and not as much space and more interest, that we would do that. We'll see, but I'm hoping that we'll get those bids in. I anticipate that the next board meeting, which is an evening board meeting, that maybe we have the majority of our board members can be here, and we'll keep doing that. And we shoot for a month when if we have new meetings and there's some different opportunities for attendance, that we maybe have some of those things installed. Ultimately, what we're trying to avoid is 7 board members being on the meet while they're here in person. And if that happens, we all have to wear headphones. You have to mute every time and then unmute. It just is not positive. So this environment is better than that. We still have to figure out how to link so that our live stream isn't 7-second delayed and you hear the audio and see the video. But we're on.
Okay, thank you. On the new business, we have several resolutions here. The first one is from Finance and Budget. I guess I'm the only member of Finance that's here. Finance Committee approved a 1.23% base salary increase for teachers. That's the maximum amount that the state would allow. And just so you know, we're approving it for the teachers because they had to take it back to their union members for approval. They've accepted that. We will be looking at our salaries for our other employees, but right now we're just limiting it to the teachers because they still have a union. It doesn't need a motion or a second, but it's open for discussion if anybody has any questions on that.
Well, since it's the maximum, I mean, there wasn't any suspense about it.
Well, no, obviously the teachers can reject it.
So this is
Like,
like,
that's
this
the
is,
maximum.
this is,
You can't ask for more than that.
this is statutory.
Well, that's the maximum that we still have to approve it. We couldn't, the maximum we could give them if we were giving them an increase would be 1.23%. But we're not required to give them. That.
Right,
That's where you're going with that. No.
Yeah.
Gary, just to clarify, that statutory is for all organizations that continue to ratify as a union.
Okay.
And so part of the Act 10 process was that if you ratify as a union, the maximum amount you can get is a CPI, and that is given to us from the fiscal bureau.
Okay.
If in fact the ratification was not held, then the board has the right to choose the number. That makes sense.
But not more than this. No.
Then the board, yes, actually, yes. Then the board has the right to choose the number.
Okay.
But if you have a ratified association, the maximum amount you can get is put forward by the CPA.
Okay.
Previous years, what was the, is it 1.23 that, because of the rate each year, or is how this been going so far?
We, for most of the years since Act 10, because that was when they were no longer negotiated, we've given the maximum amount allowed, which is the CPI. This year it's the 1.23. It's been different amounts, but we have not. There was a year where we did not approve that increase. So that goes back a number of years.
If I'm not mistaken, last year was 1.81.
Yeah,
It was last year, and then the year before, I want to say it was 0.44, 0.43.
Something like that.
And then the year before that, it was like 0.12.
But we've been typically approving the maximum amount allowed. So then we've been
Explanation.
typically providing it then to the other employees as well. But not every year, but that's what we normally look at.
So Gary's question was, is there an explanation of why it's the max? I think it's a philosophy on the cost of living increase. That's where that increase will come.
This last year was a pretty tough year.
Yeah, so it is interesting, right? So the year before was likely one of the best economic years we had in a decade, and the economic offer was 2.44.
Yeah.
So, you know, it does fall into that. I think it has to do with, you know, the CPI, and I believe the CPI is
Yeah.
put in place for, I believe, there's a positive correlation between the CPI and inflation.
Yeah.
So it's a cost of living increase.
And again, this is just a base salary. It doesn't include benefits. There could be changes to benefits based on additional costs to the district for those. So that's a separate item. Again, it's not negotiable. It's just something, for example, health insurance.
Yes.
You know, if we got a 20% increase in health insurance costs, obviously we're going to look at it, correct? But we're not doing that here. This is just the base salary. So, yeah, Colin.
So in addition to that, so and going off of, what Superintendent Bolton said, so the correlation is drawn from the CPI to the rate of inflation. And that's how they determine this number.
And we don't say, yes, and they give it to us and then say, this is the seal.
Gotcha. All right, thank you.
Anything else?
So Dave, do we make a motion?
No, we already have that.
Okay.
We're at that point of discussion. You can modify the motion or do whatever you want with it. Otherwise, I would just ask for a vote if there's no other discussion. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's carried. Then now the next couple are going to require a motion in a second. This is a resolution to begin the 2021-22 school year prior to September 1st. The state law requires us to start at September 1st, no earlier, but we can ask for a modification to that. We're doing so in this instance. So any questions on that?
Yeah, how much earlier than September 1st?
I'll turn that over to the superintendent.
Sure. So what I would tell you is that I got to get permission to start early. Our plan would be to start on potentially, and we'll go the process, would be Monday, August 30th. The current earliest start date we could have is Wednesday, September 1st. So again, what I need in order to start early is I need the board to approve a resolution, and I need to forward the resolution date and the approval to the state. And if the state approves it, then we would come back and share the calendar and say, we'd like to start on this date, and then we would kind of go through that. But I can't even ask to start early before I get the board's approval. And then again, it is in this pandemic times, the state has approved, I have 11 different school districts that they've approved an early start. And the early start needs to be because we have some plans in order to help retain and support student learning. But before I can do that, I have to have a resolution that the board agrees that we can start before September 1st. So the vision would be 2 days before. You know, again, I'd love to start 2 weeks before, but we're not in a position to do that right now. We need to move cautiously and slowly. And to add 2 days to the school calendar also has a financial impact, of which then we would bring back and say, okay, well, what does that look like? Because you can't just add 2 days, right? You got to have financial impact to that. That's why we got to get first before we. I'm first asking for permission from the board. I would assume the state would give us approval. We would then come back to the calendar and share that with the committee and understand where the resources would come from and the rationale behind starting, and then the full board would approve that at an upcoming.
You need a whereas statement. and stuff.
There is a,
There is one in the board book. Yeah. It is whereas, and so.
and this doesn't include a reduction of the school time because we are ending at the same time as normal work, correct?
We're basically adding it.
So we're adding to the school year, not making any subtractions because we're starting early.
So contractually across the district.
Yeah.
Yes.
Technically 2.5 based on the preliminary calendar that I have, but
Gotcha.
the answer would be yes. So we're a little bit ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, but we'll have to have the discussion.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's not part of this resolution.
And 2.5 days, yes.
Do we have a ballpark of what that would-
Yeah, so we would shift that to the CARES dollars.
Yes.
And so that's where we would use that for additional resources for professional development and learning.
Okay.
I think the cost is a bit based on, what the days look like and how many people are gonna be here. If that makes sense.
And I know you want to know those things, but that doesn't impact the resolution. Because the resolution has nothing to do with how much it's going to cost. It just would allow us to start earlier. We could, when the calendar comes up, we could reject it.
Yes.
Or we could say, yeah, we'll start early, but then we're gonna have 2 days out. So that'll be up to us to decide whether or not it's financially in our best interest to do as well. But that's a separate question. This does not address itself to any finances. Simply, we could start the year earlier. We just want to get approval from the state. That's all that this is here, so.
So.
I don't want to take away from your
No,
question, but that's a
fine.
separate question and it's not part of this.
So conversations with MEA would.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay. So I would entertain a motion and a second to approve that resolution. Motion approved. Second? Second. Any further discussion on the resolution to request opening the school year earlier than September 1st? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And then we'll go to the next step, which would be looking at a number of factors that fall into play when you start school earlier. The next one is the student accident insurance. I don't have a whole lot of information on that.
Turn it over to Angela.
Angela, probably, yeah.
Yes.
Cheaper.
Hello, yes. Attached in board book was just some information regarding the policy renewal request. This is an annual request we make for our supplementary accident insurance for students. It's in the amount of $10,460,000 for the next fiscal year. It does increase $1,163 COVID credit compared to what they usually charge for school districts, just based on activity in the past year. The company is passing that savings on to the school district. And what it covers is it covers accidents on school district grounds, except for anything that happens during 9 through 12 interscholastic sports or WIA sports. It's a secondary insurance coverage, so like any parent's primary insurance would be the first point of coverage, and then this would cover anything after that up to $25,000 per injury. That is all I have on that.
And this is something that we have every year, correct? And we're just
Correct.
looking in for the following school year, and it appears as though we will actually have a decrease in the cost.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Any questions for Angela on that? If not, I would ask for a motion and a second to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. You can abstain. That's okay. And then, we move on to our other business, our CISA 7 representative. What do you want to volunteer?
Kathy, you do it, don't you?
Yeah, I did this past year. If no one else wants to volunteer, I'll do it again.
Anyone else want?
But I would like to put it out there for someone else to have the
Sure.
opportunity if they'd like, so.
We get one volunteer, we don't have to really vote on it. We just gotta. Easy.
Dave's alternate.
Anybody want to do it?
Well, I had the same attitude as you, like, nobody else wanted to do it. I will do it. I vote for you.
Yeah.
Six to seven, I've actually only attended a couple of meetings. It's just a group of people. They have a board representative who goes to the meetings. Not very many people actually go. It tends to be just the board of directors who goes. And they operate 6 to 7. It's like our board goes over the district. It's like a board that goes over 6 to 7. So they meet. There's very few people who attend outside of that board. But I have gone a couple of times just to try to keep up to date and see what's going on. So it really has only been a couple of meetings. It's not a large party.
What sorts of issues arise?
It's very much like our board meetings. They have, there's a director's report and reports given by, the various people who work there and financial reports there. I haven't seen a lot of controversy. A lot of times it might be different things that they're offering, what they're going to be doing to the building there. And again, I've only gone to a couple, so, the two that I've gone to have dinner. That's kind of nice. But I think it can be more if you want it to be more. You can attend more meetings, I think. This last year has been very unusual in that things were virtual. So we've only been invited twice. So it could be more meetings on the road. We've never done it before this year. I'm not really sure.
You get a virtual meal too?
No virtual meals. No, you have to, pack your own food at home. So.
All right. But maybe it'll change.
Maybe it'll change. I have no idea. Yeah. So,
Anybody? Otherwise, Kathy, I guess you'll do it.
yeah, I'll do it if no one else wants to step forward. I'm fine with that.
Okay, well, you're in.
Oh, okay. No one else wants it? You sure?
And then we have our representative and alternate representative for the WASD Delegate Assembly. That's in January. Last year it was virtual, but
Yeah, that's the one thing I do.
do you want to do that?
I really would like to do that again because again, it was unusual this last year. I don't feel like I got to take full advantage of what the position allows. And I think having done it the 1 year, I think I could see different things that I'd like to do with it this year. I think I could take
Particularly
more full advantage of
What
being.
is Wisconsin? What is?
WASD? Wisconsin Association of School Boards.
Oh, yeah.
They have a meeting.
I just.
Just last year it was virtual. So I mean, I didn't attend a virtual meeting, so.
Yeah. And I did it.
I know if you go in person, it's a little different. You get to meet people from different districts and things like that. Who else would like to be on that? Do you want to go to that?
Just need an alternate.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll be there.
Okay, somebody else wants, okay, Carrie, you're in. By the way, this can always change if we have.
Yes, it will.
It's just April. And
I did the training things with this.
okay, all right.
This is a real lobby organization. They have a lot of useful.
They do, yes, absolutely.
If we have any future meeting dates for our committees, I guess those will have to get together after the fact, so. We don't know where chairpersons are right now. Our next scheduled meeting would be Tuesday, May 11th at 7 o'clock. Again, at least I probably won't make it, so you get to be in charge.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I have a question regarding those. When I got on the school board and started, paying attention to some of the stuff as well, I was real surprised that you guys have noon meetings. Is there any reason that we have those versus in the evening when everybody can attend?
Just to start. They always did one at noon, and we always did one at night. I can give you a similar, we used to do that with the county board, not county board meetings, but committee meetings, we used to have them during the day.
Sure.
But, getting people to show up other than retired people. So finally we decided to move most of them to a later time, which, I get it, but it's just a start. There's no reason that we have to have them. We have changed the times occasionally to get members there. It's something we could look at.
I would be interested in that being looked at because I know a couple people.
Okay.
I would like to say though, it does allow for other people though to be part of the board meeting, give them opportunities. Like if you are a shift worker who only works second shift, you can never attend those meetings. So at least it varies it a little bit and gives everyone more of an opportunity to to be part of the board.
Yeah.
Or the agenda for the next meeting,
Yeah,
and then open it for discussion.
okay, great. That would be-
That's what we'll do.
Do that.
There's an agenda item for you right there. But again, I have no idea, it goes way back, I have no idea why, but again, we did that at county board too, and I never knew why they did it either. We used to have some 9 o'clock meetings in the morning. So, whatever, okay, we'll do that. And as far as agenda items for the meetings, typically I meet with the superintendent, and then we go over the agenda for the next meeting. If anybody has items that they would like to see on that agenda, they should get that to myself, or in this case, probably Lisa, or the superintendent, and then it can be placed on the agenda. Especially if it's something that you might, think could have a motion to it, because that's the only way we could do that, obviously. But that's the way to get stuff on the agenda, and I'm pretty open to that. I'll discuss whatever needs to be discussed, let the board make the decision.
Right.
So, anything else? Otherwise, I believe we don't need to go into closed session. So we'll bypass that.
You don't need,
We did not, no, we took care of that. And, then this is an easy one, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn in a second. Anybody want to adjourn?
So I'll motion.
There you go, that's all we need.
To adjourn.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, okay.
so we don't get any. So, the application.